What's going on, guys? This is Devon Evans. We're back with another episode 18 of the Band of Barbers podcast. I'm your host, Devon Evans, and I just want to thank you guys and welcome you guys back to another episode. Hope you're really enjoying it. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That's how we grow the tribe. I really want to thank you guys. Last night, we had one of our record high numbers as far as episode plays. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Please, if you guys are listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, get the word out. Like I said, let's grow the tribe. But without further ado, let's jump into tonight's topic. Today I want to talk, or this evening I want to talk a little bit about common beliefs that I just don't believe. And it generally comes from people who are not in the industry, but there are some things that come from within the industry itself. So we're going to kind of discuss both of those aspects. The number one thing or first on the list that I'd like to talk about is people thinking or believing that barbering is easy. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not. It's really not. Does it get easier over time? Sure. Kind of. And that's relative to it. It gets easier as you learn more about the trade. I'll say that. Things become a lot less guesswork and more of muscle memory. But it takes a long time to develop that muscle memory, to take the guesswork out of it. And to do those things, it's also intentional. You have to be intentional as a barber. Barbering is not easy. In the state of Virginia right now, you have two different tracks. You have apprenticeship and then you have school. Now, if you go to school to be a basic barber or just a barber, you're going to be in school for 1,100 hours. If you want to be a master barber, you're going to be in school for 1,500 hours. Now, the length of time that course may take, it varies based on how the schools function, what their day looks like, and so on and so forth. That's one. Now, on the apprenticeship side, you're going to be in a apprenticeship phase before you can you're going to be in an apprenticeship phase for 2,000 to 3,000 hours. 2,000 for a barber, 3,000 for a master barber. And once you finish that training process, you then have to go and take state mandated tests. You have to take a written test, and you also have to take a hands-on test or a practical test. There's the theory, practical. You have to take these tests, and you have to pass them with, if I'm not mistaken, is a 70% or higher. It might be 75% or higher to pass these tests. So that's just the prerequisites to getting to becoming to getting closer to becoming a barber. That's just, you have to make for many people, you had to make a lot of sacrifices in order to just get to the point to take the test. For a lot of us, a lot of adults, you've been out of school, you're away, and now you have to study. And if you weren't that good at studying in school, like it's hard to study. You're studying, you're going over stuff, you're learning new stuff that you don't know, don't remember. Now, I will say that some of the science stuff that you're going to learn, discuss, and be tested on is actually stuff that you probably took in like biology, chemistry. Like it's in there, it's in that area. So I will say that if you paid attention in high school, you've gone over these subjects before. But if you didn't, if you didn't pay attention or anything like that, like I didn't remember that I learned this stuff in high school, but at a previous job while I was studying for my test, I was sitting in on a class and they were going over, I was sitting in on a high school class and they were going over things that I was currently studying and trying to read and learn. So, that's another thing. When we talk about this whole barbering is easy thing, we've just gone through prerequisites, and then it's getting, depending on how you go into a shop, whether you go commission or whether you go as a booth renter, they both hold different weights. Commission, the shop is more responsible for filling the space than you are per se, as the individual. I still believe that it's your responsibility. I still believe that you should learn and things like that, because what happens a lot of times that I've seen is that barbers that get into, even stylists, barbers and stylists that get into a commission-based shop, they are upset because they're doing this work and, the price may be, they might provide a service and the service is so much, but they're only getting, 60% of the service fee. And maybe if they upsell, they might get, another 3% off of an upsell of products or whatever. So they're upset. So they're like, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to either open a shop, find a shop, do something like that. And then they just jump. And a lot of people jump without actually paying attention and learning the skills. They didn't learn the skills. They didn't talk to the person who was marketing and managing all of that kind of stuff. They didn't necessarily really pay attention to how to run, grow, and maintain your business. They didn't pay attention to the things that have to do with business. They said, I have a skill set. I'm good at what I do. I'm going to go over here so I can make more money. But they struggle because whereas the commission shop had them doing 10 to 12 clients a day, now they're only doing 2 to 3 clients a day, and they're trying to understand what's wrong, and they're mad and they're upset. They're like, oh my, why is this not working? Well, you didn't learn all of the necessary steps to grow. You didn't learn the things that you need to understand to grow and really be an independent business. Each chair in the shop, if it's a booth on a shop, each one is an independent business. Now they work all together, but it's kind of like an apartment building. Your apartment is your apartment. You have your neighbors in their apartments, but you don't get to determine what necessarily your neighbor does in a booth rental shop. You don't get to even determine who your neighbor is. If you do, you're very lucky. So, you have to keep that in mind when you're like, this commission they're robbing me. They're doing all the owner or the manager or somebody is doing the work that you don't necessarily want to do, haven't learned to do, or refuse to do. They're bringing in the clientele, right? You need a tribe. They have a tribe. They're giving you access to their tribe, and they're asking you for a percentage of their money or the percentage of the service fee for providing all of these extra services for you that you're not doing. Now you want to cut out the middleman? That's fine. But just understand it's going to be it's going to be a journey if you don't take the time to learn it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. Also another thing in the barbering not being easy, and we're still on point number one, the belief that barbering is easy. Another thing is actually learning the technical skill, right? Learning the technical skill, and also in part of learning the technical skill is being okay with making mistakes. I saw a conversation the other day in a barber Facebook group that I was in, and a guy said that if you're cutting a certain amount of heads in a week, you're probably going to drop 2 to 3 of those haircuts a week. And when he said drop, it may not be what you preferably wanted it to be. It may not be the standard. You may drop it. And I saw in the comments section there was another barber that jumped in there and said, like, this isn't the way to think. This isn't the way to do anything. And you shouldn't be okay with, 2 to 3 a week. And then they did all this math and they're like, well, you do 2 to 3 a week and that's 12 a month. That's 12 a month, and then 12 a month turns into, they did all of this math. And, my thought on that situation is that the person who said that if you do this many, you're likely to drop, I think the number was 60. So if you do 60 haircuts in a week, you're likely to drop, you're likely to be unpleased or something, dissatisfied with 2 or 3 haircuts in a week. And I'm very much so in agreement with him. Because this is the reality. You are not a robot. Every head is not this. Every client's scalp is not the same. Every client's desire for a haircut is not the same. I'll tell you personally, for me, sometimes it's the request of the client versus their head shape, or the request of the client versus, they think that they're in a phone booth or an internet cafe or something, and they can just kind of do whatever and lounge, and you're just gonna work around poor posture. They're pulling away from you. All of these types of things. Now, I'm not making an excuse for this. I'm saying that these things happen. If you're doing 60 haircuts in a week, that to me is reasonable. That's like saying that a factory usually expects to have a 5 to 15% error rate on whatever they're producing. So by that logic, yes, you want to cut it down as much as possible, but there's always underlying factors that you may not be able to control. It's just, it is what it is. We're not robots. We're not anything like that. Like we're real people, and mistakes happen. And so being so obsessed with not making mistakes, I think, is detrimental to a lot of people's careers. I think it's detrimental in not allowing people to start because they're so afraid to mess up when, like, you have to understand that if you're just getting started in this, you're going to suck at it. What you do in year one you should not be doing the same things in year 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Like, if you're getting stagnant, then and what you're doing, you're not growing. And so just understanding that it may be rough. You have to grow. You have to grow. You have to continue to grow. Growth is the key. Grow as a person, grow as a barber, grow as a business owner, grow in all of these things. You're behind the chair, and this is for my for all barbers, commission or booth run. You're growing behind like you have to grow in all different areas. You're wearing multiple different hats. A commission barber may wear fewer hats than, let's say, a booth rental barber, but you're wearing multiple different hats, and you need to grow and be constantly evaluating where you're growing, and where you are lacking at. You need to understand where you lack. So, and the barbering is easing. I went off for a little while on that. It's just one of those things that I'm just saying, if barbering was easy, more, I looked up the national statistic. I think that on average, based on the population, for barbers, there is one, I think it's 0.1% of the whole United States population is barbers. And it's somewhere along the lines of like one barber, I believe, is to every 25 to 50,000 people. And you have to think that we're talking about a national statistic, not in your area. Talking about a national statistic. So please, don't beat me up in the comments because you're like, well, it's 15 barbers where no. Again, my theory is also at the same time, it might be 15 barbers in your area, but everybody can make money. Because there's not one barber that can stand behind a chair all year long and cut, generally, unless you're in a micro populated area of like, 1,000 people or less, or there's 500. There's 500 people. There's 500 people and 15 barbers. Like, okay, I can understand that, but when we're talking about not even mid-sized cities, what they call small cities that might be, or small cities or small counties. If your county has 100,000 to 200,000 people in it, that's a pretty small county. But one barber is not going to cut 100,000 people. It's just not going to happen. If he wanted to give everybody, he gave away a free haircut to everybody in the city. It's just not going to happen. So, barber's not that easy. It can be if you put the right systems in place, you do the right things, you choose to grow, listen, and take advantage and find the right places and get the right mentors. So it can grow. It can grow into being easier, but the one thing that most barbers focus on initially is technical skills. Technical skills will get easier over time. Repetition becomes muscle memory, so it's going to get easier. But it's going to also get harder at the same time, because usually once you really start to hone in and lock in on technical skills, then you have to learn the other pieces, such as the business, such as marketing, such as managing people if you're opening a shop, or dealing with commercial real estate, or like there are other things that are always going to be, there's always going to be a level of struggle as you grow in this industry. And even when you may reach the pinnacle or the mountaintop, there's the intangibles, or not the intangibles, the uncontrollable things, such as, you grow in developing and building a huge business, and then, something like COVID happens. That's not something that you necessarily really plan for. We didn't plan to be off for 90 days plus. We didn't plan for that. It just happened. So, there's always some growth, but getting those technical skills is probably in what I believe to be strong growth for barbers, is probably like the bottom of the list. It really is. There's a lot of other things that are important besides just having technical skills. Okay. The number 2 point that I have, and I know I beat number 1 up, but I'm gonna jump into number 2. Number 2 point is there's no money in barbering. Now, I always say this for anybody who has ever said that, especially in a barbershop. I said, if you believe that there is no money in barbering, you can't do simple basic math. If I'm charging if I'm charging $30 and you ask me how many clients I got after you, and I tell you I have 5 to 7 more clients, you do the math. And let's say they're all $30 services. You do the math. It's just one of the most ridiculous things ever. It's just super ridiculous. I feel like if anybody's a Family Guy fan, I feel like Peter Griffin right now, because I'm getting ready to go into a kind of what grinds my gears. One of the things that really necessarily grinds my gears is when people come into the shop, and it's typically regulars, it's not new clients. People come into the shop and they might see you sitting down and they're like, oh, y'all not working hard today? Some days that may be true. I'll just be honest with you. But more times than not, that's not true. Also, I didn't go into business for myself to be a machine. Did not do it. I didn't go into business to be a machine and do all of this to work like a factory worker. I didn't want to work in the factory. I wanted to control my day, be able to spend time with my family, enjoy what I do, have a smile on my face, and not be upset about having to go to work. That's what I wanted. Now it's changed a little bit, because now I just want to share what I know and the knowledge that I have with other people, so that we can grow and bring professionalism back into my area as far as barbering is concerned. It's fallen off in a sense. for a lot of places. There's skills that are missing. Professionalism is falling off. The places that like we are that do that specialize in things such as skin fades and things of that nature. The people that do that, they're not always the most professional. They're just not. But I say that to say this: they also weren't always trained they weren't trained in very professional environments. They learned it from, you know, uh, an older person who had been in the game for years, and they learned it from wherever that they learned it from, and they've been all. It passed down. It passed down. But back to my earlier statement, I really just can't. It irks my nerves when people are like, or uh, one one was funny. So I'm in the grocery store the other day, and I see one of the other barbers in the shop, his client, and he sees me in the store, and I speak, and he's like, "Hey, you're not cutting hair today?" And it's like I got the baby with me. I'm pushing him in the cart, and I'm thinking to myself, we could have just stopped this at hello. You wanted to ask me if I was working today. For what reason? You don't take days off from work? I took a day. I spent time with my son. Like, what are we talking about right now? I'm not locked to that chair all day, every day. So uh, in the end, like I said, barbering is not easy. What people think of as barbering being easy is generally the technical skills, and that does develop over time. Like I said, that's number one. It does develop over time, but it usually shows the gaps in some other stuff, such as business side of the game. Um, there is money in barbering. You just need to do simple math. At a minimum, if we're doing 30, uh, if we're doing $30 cuts at, we're doing $30 cuts, and that your clients are just giving you $30, and you do 10 cuts a day. That's $300. Um, that's $300 a day. And let's say you work 5 days a week at $300. That's $1,500. You add an extra day, still getting $300, and nobody tips you. Nobody does any of those sorts of things. You add an extra day, and you've gone from $1,500 to $1,800 in a week. I'm just saying. I mean, we can argue about it. We can say what we want to say, but I'm just saying. You know, do the math. If you're a guy that tips your barber, take what you tip and the price of the service and multiply it by like 7 to 10 a day. Your barber looks happy, or your barber might be relaxing because he's not working hard. He's working hard, but in a structure that doesn't beat him down. And he's working for himself. Just saying. Um, Point number 3, and my final point, because we're gonna wrap it up here, is anybody can cut hair. Now, just like we talked about barbering being easy, I'm going to talk about this in a much different light, I think, than we talked about with the whole barbering being easy. Now, do I believe that anybody can cut hair? Yes. They make home haircut kits for a reason. They have, if you have clippers with the guards, like, the home haircut kits, I think, come typically with the guards from number 1 to number 8. If you can count from 1 to 8 and you put one guard on for each one, boom, 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 you can cut hair. Now, does that mean that you're going to be as skilled as uh, a professional barber who has gone through school or who works in hair every day? Probably not. I'm just saying. Probably not. Might make a real valid effort. Might look okay. But you're not intentional about being a barber. So, the growth comes with repetition. If you only got 2 clients or 2 people that you cut, maybe your kids, you might be really, really good at cutting their hair because you cut their hair, a million times. But if I threw in a different a hair texture, you'd probably be confused. If you only know how to use clippers, if I threw in shears and told you to do a shear cut, you'd probably be confused. And not only would you probably be confused, but you would be upset because you're not getting the results. I'm always looking to get my hands on new clippers, and I bought some clippers off Facebook Marketplace. And when I bought the clippers, I met with a guy and I was talking to him, and he was saying he did a haircut. He had been cutting his own hair a little bit, and he did a haircut on one of his friends, and the friend it came out good. He really liked it. He enjoys cutting hair, so then he went from that to he bought some expensive professional clippers. And he said, once I got those, I found out that this may not be what I really want to do. And I wasn't as good as I thought I was. That goes back to what I said earlier, and that my strong disbelief in that barbering is easy. It's not. You can go back and look at it was trending a while ago, the barbers doing the Walmart haircut challenge, and they were, going to the store and getting Walmart clippers and, doing all that kind of stuff and doing haircuts with that and, those things. And you can look at it and you're like, how are they making these crappy clippers? How are they making these crappy clippers produce such nice haircuts? Now, will I say they're premium haircuts? No, but they're typically better than a house haircut, a home haircut from an amateur. The reason is because they have a system. They understand how the system works. They use the system together. That's what they get. That's what they know. So for them, they can produce in any environment. They can produce in any environment. So it's not just about this career is not for everyone. Number one thing I say to new guys, and I ask them to kind of figure out and learn where their mindset is, you have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with making mistakes. If you're not okay with that, this is going to be a hard journey that may or may not break you. It may or may not break you. If you can't deal with criticism, if you can't deal with maybe a client being upset, if you can't deal with somebody disagreeing with what the way that you did, if you can't deal with those things, this may not be the place for you. It's just the reality. Not saying that you can't do it, but I'm saying that you may not be able to do it as if you listen to yesterday, you may not be able to do it as the person that you are today. And meaning that you may not be able to do it because you don't have the level of self-discipline to stick through it when it gets tough. So you may need to do some personal development in order to actually obtain and reach your goal before you jump into this, or while you're in this. In order to stay and have some longevity, you're going to have to develop some skills that 9 times out of 10 you probably do not have right now. You just don't have them. Develop the skills. Figure it out. And if you're not willing to do that, if you can't take somebody saying that, like, dog, that haircut sucks. If you can't take that, this may not be the career for you. If you get upset with the client because they told you that what you did, they didn't like it, this may not be the career for you. It just may not. And that's okay. You can still love cutting hair and this not be the career for you. So relax. Relax. Just understand you got to develop personally in order to grow. So, anyways, my disagreement with beliefs for today is just to kind of recap what we talked about. One, barbering is easy. Not so, not a thing. It's a journey. It's a process. Just understand that. It's not going to come to you. You're not going to pick up the clippers this week and be Van Gogh of the Clippers by next week. It's a process. You got to learn. There's no money in barbering. Listen, I'm telling you, as a beginner barber, not having a lot of technical skills, I was still making a substantial amount of money. Now, it was inconsistent. At times it was inconsistent, but I was still able to make, a substantial amount of money. One reason being because I understood that it was going to be faster for me to develop personally than it was for me to develop technically. So I focused on the personal skills while developing my technical skills. I knew that the technical skills was going to take time. So I worked on the other stuff while I was doing that. Something that I would suggest that you would do. Work on the other skills while you're doing. People just want to be respected and treated nice. If you're doing bare basic minimum, you're not doing any marketing. The only thing you're doing is showing up and you're in the shop 8 hours a day or however long that you're in the shop. If a person comes into the shop, it's your job to give them the best experience and the best skills that you can provide to them. And if you mess up, own up, be honest, say it, check it out, grow, you'll get better. We've all had a bad haircut before. Did you might have stopped going to that barber, but hopefully the barber that gave you a bad haircut didn't stop cutting hair because you weren't what they necessarily really wanted. You weren't they weren't what you wanted. Sorry, because they weren't what you wanted. Hopefully, you just didn't stop getting haircuts. Some people might, you know. Um, and the final one, like it. So number two is there's money in barbering. There is. There absolutely is. Set an affordable set a price that you believe that you can get. Fill your chair. Get people coming back. Get people coming back. Get you 2 weeks of rotations of people that get their haircut every 2 weeks. There you go. Now you got money. Yeah. 30 times 10 is 300. You only do 10 a day. Only do 10 a day at $30 a piece. You're making $300 a day. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be. There's no reason, no need. All right? So there's money in barbering. And the final one, to grind my gears, the just send me over the top some days. Anybody can cut hair. I'll say this. If anybody could cut hair professionally, then everybody would be doing it. Everybody that wants to do it would be doing it. They're not. Some people just aren't built for this. They aren't built to take they aren't built to deal with the criticism. They aren't built to deal with the slow days. They aren't built to go out and market themselves. They aren't built to not only market themselves outside the shop, but market themselves inside the shop. They aren't built to, some of them choose not to be professionals. I'm telling you from there has to be a level of professionalism. It just has to be. It's my belief. There has to be a level of professionalism. You need to greet people when they come in the door. You need to greet your clients. You need to put the neck strip on the correct way. You need there has to be a level of professionalism. You need to launder your capes. You need to make sure that your that you present well. It's a lot more than just giving out a clean fade. And not everybody wants a fade. It's the truth. That whole fading process, especially a bald fade, is one of the more tedious haircuts. I'm going to be honest. If somebody gets in my chair and I say, hey, how are you doing today? Nice to meet you, yada, yada, yada. What are we going to do today? And they say, I don't know. Just do something. I'm going to tell you that on the bottom of my list of things that I am willing to do when you give me creative control over a haircut, on the bottom of the list is doing a ball fade. I don't think I have ever done a ball fade on someone who has given me creative control. Do what you want, not doing a ball fade. I can promise you that. Promise you that. Yes, they're good. Yes, they're good. Yes, they look sharp. It's a real talent. It's a real skill. There's some barbers better at it than others, but it is not something that I'm trying to do. If you give me creative control, might get a clipper open, might get a number one on the side, But I am not. I might taper the bottom of it. I might taper, do a little taper of the ears and do a little taper in the back, to make it last a little longer. But jump out there, you say, "Would you give me creative control?" I ain't pulling no 5-0 or no trimmer or no clippers closed out to do no ball fade. Promise you, you know. I will close with this. I'll say this and I'll close with this. Oh shoot. I lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, yeah. The other disbelief that I have, that I think is kind of an industry standard, especially within the curly, kinky, wavy, aka the ethnic or black or Hispanic shops or things like that. The other disbelief that I have is that we are just here to cut hair. Right? That's the only services that we can offer. Oh, we're just cutting hair. That's it. We're not doing nothing else. That's not what. No. No. There is so many other skills that you can. There are so many other technical skills that you can do that will bring in a higher yield for your money and bring in a higher quality client. At least, if not higher quality, at a minimum, higher paying. Learning how to style a client's hair, important. For our straight hair clients, learning how to style their hair is important. Learning how to do retouches and lighten hair and apply color to clients' hair is important. You are boxing yourself in if you say the only thing I want to do all day, every day is work with clippers. And maybe, do a little bit of shear work. Even though it frustrates me sometimes, I love I'll go in phases where I'll get like this whole day where it's nothing but just shear work. Nothing but shear work. But if I've done 30 ball fades in a week, 3 or 4 shears back to back is actually nice. It's a different skill set. It's a totally different skill set. So, again, guys, just respect the game, respect the profession. Please respect what your barber does. Right? If your barber, especially if you got a barber and he's a busy barber, he working 8 to 10 hours a day, and he's jumping from the time that he gets to work to the time that he leaves work. That is hard on. That is also hard on the body. It's hard on the body. Respect what they do. Talk to them about their business. Talk to them about your business. Like, don't just discredit them, because you are unhappy with what you're doing. They follow and chase their passion. They're happy. They're doing well. You can't be upset with them for doing well and what they decided to do, learn, train, and focus on. All right. Anyway, guys, this is episode 18 of the Band of Barbers podcast. I'm your host, Devon Evans. Please like, comment, share, subscribe so we can grow the tribe. I appreciate you guys. See you again tomorrow.